Hello. Do you know what day of the week it is? It's Tuesday. And you know what that means? It's time for High Impact Tuesdays. Hello, my name is Frank Lavinia, and I am your host here on this LinkedIn live feed. And today is Tuesday, and I have a segment that I do every Tuesday, go figure, called High Impact Tuesdays, where it's kind of based on the idea of the Mike Tyson quote, right? You know, everybody has a plan till they get punched in the face. And sometimes Mondays can do that, but you can still have impact for the rest of your week. And that's what High Impact Tuesday is about. Today's High Impact Tuesday is going to be a bit different. Let me change the monitor that this is on, and hopefully everything will work the way I expect it. While I get that set up, I want to thank you for joining me live here. Okay, let me move that. And I'll have to share my screen. All right. Yeah. Figure out how to share my screen on this different setup here. All right. Let's see. There we go. All right. So this is my website. A couple of things. It's not going to be just that. I'm actually doing some live coding, so you get to see me code live. I haven't done that before. I know Andy does it all the time, but there's a really great series by this guy on how to do DevOps for machine learning and how to use Azure ML Ops. Another good one to highlight is a full crash course on computer networking. Highly recommend this. Even if you're a developer, data science type, it never hurts to know the kind of the fundamental pipes in which our data flows. I think that's good. Another great video here is this one by Anna Hoffman and Alan Hurt, talking about hybrid disaster recovery options in SQL Server. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about Ignite. The Ignite conference. Let's see if I can. There's the tab. Ignite is a conference that goes on every year. Normally, it would be in October, November in Orlando, but since everything is virtual this year, this is what you get. It's free. The cool thing is you can register right away. But one of the things I like to do is I like to get all the content and download it, either the slides or kind of the video recordings and things like that. And then I like to do that at scale. So I have a project here on GitHub that, oh yeah, I can look up at the, no, it's that way. I have a project here on GitHub that goes through and basically takes the metadata that's there and pulls down all the sessions basically, and you give it a couple parameters. It's a command line utility. Let me show you an example. Go, come on, there we go. So in this script file here, this fetches all the metadata for the build 2020 conference. Oops, that's actually the wrong one. What fun. All right, so what this is going to do is this is going to check for the metadata. So if I run this, it's going to fire off this binary, and it's going to basically pull down everything inside of the JSON file. And all these sessions are actually stored on online. Sessions with slides. That's interesting. All right. So all of these sessions are stored in essentially JSON, or the metadata about these sessions. So what my code does, it goes and it basically based on the parameter you send it. Gets all the related files, just the video files, just the slides, just the captions, or just show the metadata. And this will go and it will go and download everything. It's on GitHub. I just updated it today to include the build. This is what the code looks like. The project has basically session loader. This will go and fetch the metadata. And I really should kind of put these in folders and directories. If you want to be bored, there's a whole story about like how old this thing is. This is basically originally written for PDC, Professional Developers Conference, 2009. If you've never heard of the PDC, Professional Developers Conference, we call it Build now, more or less. All right, so what I have here is I have my project. I have a bunch of utilities. This handles the file downloader, the file system. I have sample files I can kind of like play around with. So for this case here, this is what the data looks like when it's been properly made. And so the program here kicks off. Inside here, I have the important URLs, and this will go and basically run. So what I'm going to do now is I've already done this here where I'm passing the parameters when I debug it. Oh, come on. Okay, don't want to update now. Come on. Nothing like doing this live. All right, so when I run this in debug, it's going to pass this path and this here. This is where the session JSON file is, and it's going to say, grab me the videos. So this is the destination folder. And this, when I run it, it should do it. So last time I got an error, I've been doing kind of troubleshooting on it. So let's say you're going to do some real-time debugging. I'm not sure what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. So let's give it a run. And here's the folder. Okay, well, this I know is going to happen. It's going to download the feed, and then the download of the feed is going to complete, and then it's going to parse through the information. Last time I did this, okay, cool. It didn't crash. So what you're seeing here is just this ugly printout of all the sessions that it found. There apparently has no 809 sessions right now, and no slides or no embeds. That's fine. If we look at the folder where everything is, there's nothing to download yet. So why am I not happy with that result? Because I swear something by now should be available on demand. So let's go and let's step through the code. All right, so that's going to be download sessions. Let's step through the code. So, because I haven't touched this since February. All right, so there's the. All right, here's our first breakpoint. All right, it's going to instantiate a session loader. Oh, I hit run instead of F10. Go. Of course, it has to be fast this time. All right. So if I do it this time, there we go. This time I'm going to hit F10. So I'm stepping through the code, right? So I fed it my feed URL, and I just printed that out to the screen, as you can see. And let's see. very hard not to use foul language. All right, so what it's doing now is that it's loading the sessions. And it's actually that's the method I need to check. Okay. This is what I need to do. That's it. It's funny how you forget your code. So I'm going to rerun this. All right. So what it's doing is it took in this raw JSON, and I'm using this JArray to parse it. And this is what I see in my session feed. Is it going to evaluate the expression? Okay. So I can see what's in there. And it's basically using the Newtonsoft JSON library. But ultimately, what I have here is in my session feed, I have a series of elements. 810, so my index was started at 0. Shame on me for not remembering that. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking that raw JSON and I'm loading it into a POCO, or plain old CLR object. All right, and put the, all right, so now this session should contain all of this information, meteor URL. So a lot of the magic happens here. I wanted to have this nice clean little bit of code here, but any time that the element ends up being a lot more complicated than a lot more complicated than having a nice little neat code like that. This is where most of the problem is. If you see a lot of the comments here that I put in there, and yes, I know I've read Uncle Bob's clean code. Shouldn't do that, but here we are. Code's on GitHub, if you just saying. Problem with the code, it's on GitHub. I'll take pull requests. I am shameless on taking pull requests. All right, so what's happening here is I'm taking in all that JSON, and that deals with its own special type of objects that I didn't want to bind to. I wanted to create my own objects. Maybe that's superfluous. I don't know. But I wrote this pretty quickly. So I have the session index, and what I'm doing is I'm basically I'm iterating through that entire array, that JSON array, and I'm pulling out an element in there. And I'm using JSON, I'm basically pulling in what those values are. So in this case, that's null. Sometimes these objects are null. So what I do is I want to have this nice clean line of code here. Now for the meteor URL, it's complicated, right? Depending on what a number of factors, and I've commented these out over time in terms of what the embed link says it is versus what it actually is, because there's a lot of server redirects. Not sure if that was intentional to kind of throw off people like me that are trying to fetch the data. I doubt it. All right. So let's go through and we'll step through. I'm going to get rid of this breakpoint because what I really care about, nothing exciting is happening here. All the fun stuff is happening inside of that infer meteor URL. All right, so that's session element. Let's see what's inside a session element. Step through that. All right, corrected. Let's see. So on demand is null. And basically on demand URL is null. Let's see what this download video link is null. So these are all null. All right, so it's looking like there may not be anything yet. On demand. All right, so what is this? This is string.empty, basically. All right, so the best thing to do would be to put a breakpoint here, because out of 810 sessions, it's not looking like there's anything there yet. Now, I know I said that sounds fishy, but bear with me. All right, so that's going to add that to the session. So what it's doing is pulling into JSON, it's going through, and then it's basically going to come up with a list of content. And then when it does that, let's go back here. And that way we can step through the code. So the next breakpoint should be here. So I've taken all these things, and now I have the session list. You step through it. Now I'm back in the main. That's saying the fade is complete. And what it's basically going to do now is going to use a link query, right? So where the slide deck URL is not empty, because if there's nulls, I convert those to empty strings, right? And it's going to give me a count. That's going to be nothing. And it's going to tell me there are 810 elements in that array or list. Down the video download said 0. So it's looking like to do that slide deck count. Wait, the slides are there already? Nice. All right. Captions. So the caption files are there. That doesn't sound right. All the captions would be there. The video is not there. All right. And this is basically saying if the media type is not none, then now we're going to go through download the sessions. Let us step into this code. Let's go. Oops. Come on. All right. So here we go. And this is where it's going to iterate through my POCO and basically print out everything. Right, based on media type. I said video. See, there's no URL. That's interesting. It says the slide deck is null. It's going to iterate through all of these. And that's what produces this lovely screen. All right. So let's go to the debug properties. Let's change this to S. Let's see if it is indeed parsing that, if those slides are session downloader, process session feed, slide deck URL. Yes, this is where I want to pause it. Okay, this is my other breakpoint. Start up again. Now, this is not exactly the most eloquent user interface I've ever designed, I assure you. Actually, get rid of the graphics. Caption overlays. Yeah. All right, so here we are. Session. So slide deck URL is null. Slide deck URL is still null. Still null. Yeah, I don't think any of these have been uploaded yet. I think that's just a mistake in the code. Yeah, because by now I should have hit one. As I said, it. So let's run it. Let's run it all the way through and see what happens. I think it's going to crash. I think it's going to crash kind of ugly. All right, so what is this saying? Caption count, slide deck count is where slide deck URL is not equal to string empty. $810. Yeah, there's a problem with my logic. It's kind of what I thought. Yeah. Those numbers can't be right then. Yeah. All right, so I have some some work to do. Now I'm going to go to definition. This is where it's going to crash. Okay. See the slide deck URL. Slide deck URL is going to be null. Let's see what printed out. Switch media type. Let's step into. So if it's not equal to string empty, but it's null, so it's probably going to blow up right here. It didn't. It's the destination file name. Okay. I always do a check to see if the file exists, in which case I skip it. So it says it's downloading that file, starting at that time. Remote URL. This is where it's going to blow up. No, it didn't blow up. All right. Interesting. And if I just let this run, all right, so it's actually not downloading anything. So this is the folder it should be in. So it's looking like I have a lot more debugging to do. Interesting. Where am I? What's all right, so I have some work to do is basically what I'm learning. So stay tuned. You can check it out here. It's on GitHub, github.com/FrankLavigne/session downloader. Might be one of my most popular repos. Oh, I've learned a new badge. Yay. Yeah. So I have 50 some odd repositories. Session downloader is probably be first on the list. And yeah. Well, that was the first time that I did a live coding session. Hope you have a great Tuesday. Hope you have, it was an experiment. Didn't quite go the way I thought it would. I thought once I solved a problem or two, it would work. But such is software engineering. Never quite know what you're going to expect. Sounds like something Forrest Gump said. Anyway, I hope you have a great week. I'll be back online later. But first, I got to get some dinner. You have a great day.